What stream key is one using? Good. You know the game High on Life where you got that guy from Rick and Morty doing all the voices? Well, you know he's like all the time. Yeah. Well, look at that familiar backdrop. It's like, Jesus, little thing, what are you doing? Oh, jeez. I, I can't believe you've done this. Hello.
Holocaust month as well. Don't forget that.
It's no saying N-word January, November, and yeah, you got to be vegan. You got basically they're just like, look, all the people that were going to commit suicide did it over Christmas, so let's just make sure we round up the stragglers by making it the most miserable month possible. Yes, it very much so. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of campaign to make January the most miserable month possible. But hey ho, welcome to 2023 Anno Domini. Yeah. You see, we go from misery and boredom to vibrant culture and
Diversity.
booty shake. Oh, I was going to say fug shaking. That's what they do in February. But yeah, so 2023 Anno Domini, or Year of Our Lord, or is the what?
Hey, no, Hobbit, have you accounted for the fucking missing like 13 minutes from last year?
Yeah, but it's also known as the Common Era, which is commonly based on the birth of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Saviour.
Oh, should be able to hear me now. People couldn't hear me earlier.
What's that method of time we need to add to this year to like round it up? I forgot. Fucking.
Oh no, let's just forget about sidereal and tropical time. Let's just pretend our time.
When do we add that? When can we add that 13 minutes or something we need?
Nobody heard me say welcome to keto dry veganuary because all of that bit was lost because my mic wasn't on.
Well, we heard
well
it.
done.
So, how do you mean your mic wasn't on? We heard you.
It wasn't broadcasting to the right bit.
Well, why would you want to have it broadcast to people?
I use Voicemeet, I don't know, which is like a mixing desk, so it wasn't.
Yeah, but it's a lot more fun if you pretend you're like Sooty. We can hear you, but nobody else can.
What's that, Hemi?
But then, yeah,
it'd get quite boring when I start reading out the bits from the 14 times.
What's that, Hemi? You want me to say the N-word on your show? Well, okay then.
November.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 2000. You know, there is something we could talk about.
There's I think I was muted when I said this, but I'm sure there's a film, one of the films from the future. There's something that happens in 2023 in one of the films. I heard someone say it somewhere the other day, but I can't remember what it is.
Oh, didn't they make that? They made that COVID film, didn't they? Called COVID 23 or something.
Oh, yeah. Did they? No, I'm talking about one of I'm talking about one of the mid '90s films. One of those happens in 2023, but I can't remember which one it is.
Films based, film set in the year 2023 AD. That's what I put.
Escape from
2023
New
AD.
York.
List of films set in the future, which is now the present. 1952, 2000. What if I can really? No, not released. The setting. Vampire Hunter D is set in 12,090, so 2,000 years after June. Mortal Engines is set between 7,798 between 3950, so that's in the era of June as well. But we want 2023 AD. So
Purge Anarchy. Apparently, the Purge Anarchy is 2023.
So 2032? No.
Did you know the film? Did you know the film The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is set in 2023, the remake? Because it's set 50 years after 1970.
Oh, here we go. So I got the list here. Eternals. Whatever Eternals is.
No.
Oh,
Don't
I was
Breathe
so bored.
2. Don't Breathe 2. It's a sequel
Yeah,
to
Don't Breathe 2. Yeah. That's the one with the...
Avengers Endgame. X-Men.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Endgame happens in 20. Well, but the blip happens in 2023, right?
So Avengers Endgame, X-Men
Everyone's
Days.
just been blipped back, right? Okay.
X-Men Days of Future Past, The Purge, Anarchy, Surrogates. Oh, Surrogates is a good film.
Yeah,
That's before
okay.
Bruce Willis went completely doolally. You know how Bruce Willis does all those films now because he's trying to get a pension.
Oh, Hobbit, you know you were talking about Gunbuster the other day.
Gunbuster?
Gunbuster is set in 2023. I thought you were after the video of it or something, the DVD of it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then there's someone responded with on the thing saying, "Oh, I know where to get it, but I'm not going to tell you because it's degenerate." I was like, "Well, okay, get blocked then."
Have they?
Fuck you.
Oh, the Chris Pratt's The Tomorrow War is 2023 as well. I saw the picture and he looked a bit like Tom Cruise in it, so I thought, have they renamed Live, Die, Repeat, whatever it's fucking called, again?
Oh, is that the one with Tom Cruise where he's in the power armor suit?
Yeah, but I thought it was that because the costumes all look exactly the same, and it's a small picture, and Chris Pratt looks a bit like Tom Cruise.
I'm gonna call that Groundhog Day starring Tom Cruise, and because it's a great film. Groundhog Day with power armor.
Groundhog Day with power armor. Oh, Click. Apparently, Click is set in 2023.
Oh.
The Adam Sandler film.
Who?
Oh, if you're
Adam Sandler, where he has the remote to control his life.
Yeah.
That was set in 2023.
God, that's really wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That was like 20 years ago, right? That film.
Vaccine Saves Life says, if you're a Babylonian and read right to left, it's the year of Skull and Bones. You're very right. It is 322. 322, by the way, it's if you get the if you get an emoji for the... When did we start calling smileys emoji? I mean, there's no other loan words from Japanaland in our language. Why do we use this one when smileys does the same? Anyway, the smiley for a fuel pump has the number 322 in the box, so that's nice.
A smiley for a fuel pump?
Yeah, so there's a fuel pump emoji or smiley, and the numbers in it say 322, and I saw that on, I don't know, Fortean Words or one of those related conspiracy channels. By the way, t.me/Fortean Words is your place to go for the hardest hitting.
Hold on, I'll throw a link in for the disc. We have a brand new shiny Discord as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. June, the books are essential, and then he says, "Make love to the sandworms."
What?
KSI Snipers found the smiley for a fuel pump, but I can't make out anything in it, so I don't know. reading the prequels to June now.
Oh shit! I remember
I'm not
what Pure Nomad's talking about. Do you remember when Bruce Willie is? I think autocorrect has had its way with Pure Nomad. Apparently, Bruce Willie tried to give one of his daughters his iTunes account, but rather than just giving her his password like a normal person would, he took Apple to court to try and let her so he could give her it in his will or something.
Right. Okay.
And they told him fuck off.
Yeah, Apple's like, no, you can't do that because fuck you, pay us. Basically, fuck you, pay me is the modus operandi of the current thing.
Right. So, do you want me to? Are you ready to talk about some oscillation, Hobbit? I know this is going to get you wet.
Well, yeah, I was going to say we've got another subject, but I think we should dedicate that to its own specific week.
Yeah, we can do that.
So
I've got plenty of content anyway. So imagine. So this is from Fortean Times, 327 from May 2015. Imagine turning into your favorite radio program only to hear it drowned by a cacophony of weird noises, a veritable insurrection in hell, a howling inferno.
We have to explain what radio shows are to the audience. Imagine a podcast, but instead of going on the internet, it's on this thing called a radio, and instead of downloading it, you broadcast it at certain times.
You have one chance to listen to it.
Unless you've got an anorak mate who put it on the tape, and then you could listen to it the next day. That was me, by the way.
Like the top 40 on a Sunday night, Hobbit. Do you remember that? Taping your favourite songs.
I unfortunately, because I was poor, I didn't have many cassettes, so I used to record the John Peel show, and any songs I like, I would then take from. So I'd record the entire show, and then I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I particularly like that song," and then I record it into another cassette. And all those cassettes got chucked out. Thanks, Mum.
This was
it's not as if I ever wanted to keep those cassettes again, or would have like a Jaguar S type with a cassette deck, and I'd be like, "Oh, here's a mixtape I made from the mid-90s."
This was the state of wireless in certain areas of the UK from the mid-1920s to the early 1930s, where other countries were quick to impose regulations on valve radio manufacture. So this is like we have never really been. We've kind of been the Wild West in our own way, haven't we? Like we can hang washing out in our back garden and like the Yanks and things like that, can't we?
Oh God, it's weird when they say the lands are the free, but they can't store rainwater and they can't put the washing out. If your grass grows above 2 inches, a SWAT team will come kick down your door.
Yeah, you can't grow veg on your front garden.
You know when they say that actually the American federal system of republic is based on the Swedish system, not Swedish, sorry, the Swiss system. Are they basically the Swiss?
Yeah.
Like, is it like just basically a Swiss country? Like, oh, you're making too much noise there.
So anyway, so where other countries were quick to impose regulations on valve radio manufacture, the UK, the real country, the real land of the free, laws were laxer, leading to the spread of unevolved sets liable to transmit as well as receive. Because you see that because all devices have to comply to, is it FAA regulations, isn't it, Hobbit?
I will answer that in a bit. Pure Nomad, you and Ian are wrong. There's no proof that John Peel was a nonce. Like, where's your evidence of this? Everyone keeps saying, oh yeah, he definitely was a nonce, but then there's no evidence for it. Fuck you.
Mm.
But anyway, yes.
Well, apparently in his own biography, he admitted to doing that, Hobbit.
Oh, what sort of evidence is that then? If I write in my biography, I went up to Mount Everest and shagged a goat, does that mean it's true?
Yeah. Do we really think that Harry was absolutely destroyed by every minor event in his life?
King Charles once, he pinched Harry's nose between his fingers and then stuck his thumb out and said, "I got your nose." And Harry has been scarred on his face ever since then.
Oh dear. Leading
Pure
to
nomads, like, if someone in the biography admits that they've done some sort of misdeed, again, in my biography it says I've climbed up Mount Everest and I sodomized a goat. And then I threw him down. I threw him down the mountain, and I laughed at his body as it turned into a pile of gory bones. It's in the biography. It's written down, so it must be the truth, right?
Oh, come on, Hobbit. Embellish it a bit more. You shagged the Yeti. Come on.
yeah.
Make it topical, all right?
Look. I'm not going to make outlandish claims in my biography, otherwise no one will believe it. People could believe.
Like that time your mum caught you were covered in ectoplasm because you'd had sex with a ghost, hadn't you? A bit.
Well, it was a succubus.
Spooky ghost. Spooky ghost.
And she was annoyed because she kept coming into my dreams, and she's like, "I'm going to make you come." I'm like, no, you're not. And then I wake up.
Oh dear. So
I
One night
haven't
you
done
kept
the
the
show
night
in a
on.
while.
One night you kept the light on and you realised it was your mum.
Ugh. That's not very nice.
Oh dear. You're making me think of that clip of Harry that I heard the other day, the one where he was jerking off with some fucking hand cream and it's the same stuff his mum used to use. It just got really awkward.
Oh, I thought the awkward bit about it was like icy hot or deep heat or something.
I wish. And then he was scarred for life. So, in impish or unskilled hands, early valve radios could fall into states of feedback if volumes were pushed too high, and these feedback tones would infect other radios for miles around. It was termed oscillation or howling, early electronic sound in untamed natural state, an archetypal spooky whistling sound later popularised by the hands-free electronic instrument, the theremin. Most listeners oscillated accidentally, but newspaper reports indicate that some people oscillated deliberately and gratuitously over radio programs they didn't enjoy. Is that like early YouTube comment section?
It's basically like when the comments are turned up.
Is that the dislike button for early radio?
That's it. It's just like, let your neighbours know how much you dislike the women's hour. Or is
Isn't that
it
the thing with TVs as well? You could turn your neighbour's TV like with the
no?
in like the early days.
No,
like,
the early ones were infrared. But I don't know, Hobbit, are you old enough to remember VCR players with a wired remote? Do you remember that?
Wired?
What? I never had one, but yes, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and they used to be called clickers, the remotes, because rather
It
than
wasn't
being
Betamax.
rather
No, it was
than
a
being
VHS.
rather than being infrared like all modern remotes are,
Yeah.
or remotes have been for a very long time.
I've never ever seen a wired
They
VCR remote.
they were
I'm too young.
ultrasound. Oh, my favourite thing was my dad got me well, I say favourite thing, it was a piece of shit.
Yeah, Alphabet Cat's an old fag. He remembers wired remotes.
My dad got me because he knew how obsessed I was with remote-controlled cars. So he got me this remote-controlled car, except
Had a wire.
It was wired, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
You have to run after it.
And also, there was no steering control.
Editing out the TV adverts. Do you remember that, Hobbit? Did you ever do that when you were about and you recorded something?
Yeah, if I was recording something live.
Yes. My mum did that all the time. EastEnders. Or fucking whatever it was.
Well, not in EastEnders.
My mate's mum used to tape like films and horror films and that, but she'd always like edit out the sex scenes.
Oh, but that's like that just sounds like a needless amount of effort. But
yeah,
okay, you do you
well,
then.
She was doing
Mum.
she was doing her bit.
Well, so anyway, this remote control car, it had two controls, like forward and reverse.
But what used to happen was the jack would get bent on the wired remote, and then that was it. It was fucking dead then.
The two controls being forward and reverse, and when it was reversing, it would, because it's like got an axle that's not secured down, it would go round in the circle, and that's how you could steer it. And I very quickly got bored with it, and it's like, hey, what if I cut the wire? Will that make it wireless? And it's like, no. Well, yes, technically it is wireless because there's no wires now, but it also don't work.
So was it? So So you had the early YouTube comment section. A crude disruptive form of Morse communication was also possible by whilst tapping the aerial. Gosh, that like someone doing
because
fuck
it's
off
a bit
in,
like
someone doing fuck off in Morse code or something. Do you reckon?
it's because it worked like a spark generator.
So anyway,
A spark.
go on then.
I was going to say a spark generator, just being a sort of broadband like thing. It just fills up the entire airwaves with noise.
So this must where the TV detector van comes from then, because it says the airwaves were haunted by rogue oscillations, and likewise the streets were stalked by the spectre of mysterious anti-oscillation vans, a precursor to the TV detector vans, which never existed, instated by the post office to detect and punish oscillators. Yeah, that's because the post office used to be the because they used to do radio phone communications and everything, didn't they? The GPO was before BT, wasn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
The post office. The post office used to be in charge of phone lines and things like that as well.
I suppose it makes sense because it's all telecommunications, which is like post office being like 500 years old now, and it's in for communication. So yeah.
Fucking hell, Hemmy, do you also remember the fall of fucking Rome?
I don't remember the post office bit. I just remember like the. Well, I suppose like people older than me used to refer to like the BT as the GPO, didn't they? So, From the very dawn of radio, interference was a serious problem. In the summer of 1903, a radio telegraphic experiment conducted by electrical engineer John Ambrose Fleming at London's Royal Institution suffered malicious interference from the magician Neville Maskelyne. Fleming was demonstrating Marconi's Morse system, and Maskelyne planned to expose its flaws.
Maskelyne sounds so similar to mescaline.
Yeah, just
Marconi Mescaline, the magician Mescaline.
Maskelyne had the courtesy to wait until the demonstration neared its end before transmitting his own Morse messages into the apparatus. With the help of an accomplice, Maskelyne sent the word rats repeatedly before sending provocative Shakespeare quotations. Fucking hell, base. That hasn't ship posting gone down.
It's not what it used to be.
Do you reckon we should be putting provocative Shakespearean quotations under YouTube videos now?
Well, there's just the one like where you're using the word quaint instead of cunt.
Yeah, quim. Was it quim when it used?
Yeah, quim as well, and merkin, but specifically the word quaint is another way. It's an old-fashioned way of saying cunt.
Yeah. How did it go from that to being something that's quite pleasant and nice?
It's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, that's nothing. Well, it's like the word gay as well. Like, gay used to be a nice thing, and now it's like, oh, no, you have a venereal disease.
Well, I remember a decorating company called Gay Homes when I was a kid.
Yeah, because it's like, it's a happy home.
Yeah.
But now gay just means monkeypox. Well, wasn't that supposed to be a thing? We're supposed to be... What happened to monkeypox?
I don't know. It's like what happened to
away
COVID
with
too?
bird flu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Omicron or whatever it was. Fucking.
Om.
Initially, the perpetrator of the messages was unknown, but days later, Maskelyne confessed his actions, which Fleming damned as scientific hooliganism. They just love the old days and the insults, like Shakespearean, like risky quotes, and calling someone a scientific hooligan.
We're the hooligans.
Do you think we should describe Greta Thunberg as a scientific hooligan online?
Well, I would describe her as a African genocide enthusiast, because that's what she is.
Nevertheless, the problem of interference remained an issue, especially so since most modern radio sets were potential oscillating transmitters too. Hobbit, do you know anything about early radio? Or what went on, what it was all about, what was causing?
Well, the funny thing is like, in terms of early television, which I do know a bit about, like, one of the inventors of the cathode ray tube was part of the Golden Dawn Society, which is an esoteric occult organization. But they weren't like, oh yeah, this would be a good way to send.
Your mate Guy Fawkes is in.
Theatre productions. Hello, Guy Fawkes. Into people's homes. No, it's like, hey, we could use this to scry into the other realms, and it'll be better than a crystal ball. So the like cathode ray tubes were made for scrying, and also the first image.
Wasn't the television like a combination of about 3 or 4 different inventions?
Well, yeah, you got radio wave transmission, and you got video, and
the cathode ray tube.
Well, yeah, there's John Logie Baird's televisor, which worked in a different sort of system. And by the way, that was used in. Yes.
Did he like picnic baskets, Logie Baird?
Well, but imagine he was a Glaswegian and like going, "I'm so bored, I'll invent television."
Oh, so he was basically fighting. So it wasn't the park owner he was fighting with; it was coppers.
Again,
instead of picnic baskets, it was bottles of bucky he was going around stealing.
Or whiskey or heroin, the usual things what a Scotchman likes. But anyway, the first image projected ever onto a television screen was Maltese Cross.
Ooh.
It was put in front of the electron gun, and it's an interesting image to project. Actually, there's a lot of esoteric meaning behind the Maltese Cross, and I'm sure some people will say, well, it's actually not based on the Christian cross, and it predates it, and the symbol means this or that. I don't know what.
So the BBC began broadcasting in 1922, and its weak transmissions were easily affected by atmospherics, electrical interference, and nearby oscillating radios. As radio grew increasingly popular, oscillation worsened and intensified further in the mid-20s with the advent of loudspeakers that compelled listeners to push for higher amplification levels. Oscillation occurred whenever listeners overstrained their radios to increase volume. There was no volume dial per se, rather there was a... So would these be like crystal set type things then, Hobbit?
Well, I imagine what they do, because in order to turn the volume up, you're using amplification, and eventually what you're doing is you're amplifying the signal to a point where it starts to feedback. Now, that's actually quite a fun effect, and it's used in synthesizers or I suppose also like guitars and such, where if you increase the resonance to a point, it starts self-oscillating, and you get a whistling tone.
So I think it explains that in a sec. So it says there was no volume dial per se, rather there was a reaction dial controlling the relationship between two coil components that interacted electromagnetically. Volume and tuning sensitivity were tied together through the use of the reaction dial. An output coil inside the radio fed back its energy into an input coil. This way, the valve's input could hear some of its output, augmenting both the signal volume and the inaudible radio tuning frequency. Beyond a certain threshold, radio feedback tones were produced, energising the aerial and transmitting a radio frequency back from the set.
Guy Fawkes, I've not heard that Jesus was crucified on a St. Andrew's cross. The reason I suspect
John the
he
Baptist wasn't he?
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the X cross. But the reason I suspect he was crucified on the Persian cross was because the Pontius Pilate washed his hands of it, and the Jews demanded that he be crucified on the cross, and that's the one they specified. So it wasn't the Romans doing it. It was just basically like the Romans were like, okay, what can we do to stop them rioting again? It didn't work because in the end, Emperor Tiberius had to exterminate them all. But some
what
escaped.
about Roger the Wapist?
Did
Monty Python Hobbit.
Biggus Dickus?
Biggest Dicketh. So technical.
Suffering faculties.
So the next section is called heterodyning. If you know whatever that is, Hobbit.
I've heard the term before, but go on.
Technical literature and hobbyist magazines at the time made concerted efforts to educate amateurs about the dangers of oscillation, but the information was not easily simplified, and there remained much misunderstanding. Oscillation could only occur around a radio station's wavelength. For a radio set to audibly oscillate, 2 source radio frequencies were needed. This process of creating sounding tones from 2 inaudible high frequencies is called heterodyning. So that's what heterodyning is. The first source was the Holmes radio valve pushed to the point of feedback. Oscillating relative to the radio frequency, the tuning dial was turned to. The second source was the radio station itself, broadcasting on its carrier wave. To illustrate, when the 2-minute silence for Armistice Day Remembrance Service was broadcast in 1924, BBC engineers switched off the actual radio transmitters to ensure absolutely no oscillation could occur against that wavelength. On other occasions, silent parts between programmes often featured the sound of a ticking clock to reassure listeners the station was still tuned, therefore discouraging any fiddling with the reaction dial. So you could, I assume, you could oscillate accidentally as well as purposefully then.
And this would have been during the days of amplitude modulation as opposed to frequency modulation.
Yeah. One quick but irresponsible way to locate a radio station was to raise the reaction dial to produce oscillation that would remain inaudible until the radio station was approached on the tuning dial. In this manner, the tuning dial could be swept back and forth until an oscillation tone was heard. As the radio station's wavelength drew closer, the heterodyned oscillation frequency audibly crept in, a high mellow note that lowered its pitch as one got nearer, reaching the lowest. Is that like that thing? Is it long wave? You know, where you hear that like that kind of thing? Are they saying that that's like a oscillate? Was that the sort of thing it would sound like?
You'd have to like find someone who's like, okay, here's me twiddling with the knob, so I'm going to show you what it sounds like when you do these things, because I'm just thinking, like, when you start playing with resonance on the synth, it does make these noises. And then when you start using the oscillator underneath the resonator, it will sort of whistly warbly, if that makes sense.
Is it long wave I'm thinking of? You know, where you get like the squeaky, you get like those kind of squeaky noises, don't you?
Well, basically anything which is AM, you're going to get those noises.
Yeah. So where was I? So people could do lazy stuff then, couldn't they? Then so you had to be you had to have quite a fair bit of knowledge about it then, didn't you? So where was I? High mellow note that lowered its pitch as one got nearer. Reaching the lowest pitch, the silent point in the middle, meant that the wavelength had been reached. Okay, so you have noise either side of the radio station, is what they're saying. Meant that the wavelength had been reached. Here, the reaction dial would be ducked down below feedback, then readjusted into a sweet spot to hear the broadcast at an optimum volume. However, when reception was poor, listeners tended to oscillate in their attempts to increase volume. The BBC had difficulty broadcasting to certain parts of the UK where terrain hindered reception, creating oscillation hotspots. These oscillation frequencies would all radiate through the aerial. Thousands of people operating radios like this meant that the sum total is many wild and eerie noises. The oscillation was against the terms of a radio licence, but it was difficult to detect offenders and enforce punishment. Instead, the BBC framed oscillation as a moral failing, overseeing anti-oscillation propaganda that led to witch hunts and confusion. A bit like they do today with politics then. So the BBC has been like this since the start, just embarrassing people for wrongthink.
You know, I just keep thinking of like anti-oscillator action.
So what is the problem with it? Like, because of this, and what was the problem?
Well, basically, you wouldn't be able to hear a radio broadcast.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're complaining that like people couldn't hear the shitty propaganda BBC pumping out. Is that it?
You're supposed to. You're
And
doing
also,
it
and also
wrong.
they're saying like that's why I was saying it was like early YouTube shit posting, because basically if you didn't like something, you could give it the thumbs down by drowning it out. If enough people didn't like it, they'd oscillate and drown it out. So then they knew that they weren't very popular. Obviously, the BBC has always had a problem with criticism, it seems.
Well, that's the thing. They're supposed to be like they got their royal charter supposed to be there for everyone, but everyone knows it's state propaganda, and it's they get very tetchy about people disagreeing with them.
Yeah. A notable early broadcast ruined by oscillation was the BBC's on-air attempt to communicate with America on the morning of Sunday the 2nd of December 1923. The announcer called out, "Hello America, British Isles calling." This was followed by a hopeful pause, marred by oscillation affecting the BBC relays. Listeners collectively strained the ears of their radios to hear any American reply. The announcer appealed to the local audience. Listeners, for heaven's sake, give us a chance. Stop oscillating. We want to hear America." The BBC's chief engineer, Captain Peter Eckersley, then took over the microphone pleading, "I want to appeal to you. Stop oscillating. From the bottom of my heart, I implore you to give us a chance. Seriously, it's perfectly rotten of you."
Perfectly rotten. This sounds like contemporary slang. Perfectly rotten. I mean, what would the modern equivalents of that be? Like, "Hey fam, don't vex me, blood. In it, wagwam."
Yeah. Eckersley went on to become the instigator of Don't Oscillate campaign by the BBC and the GPO.
Don't oscillate me, bro.
And the
Don't
GPO,
touch
the
that
General
dial.
Post Office. Because I was one of those children, if you used to look at like, you know, the access lids for telecoms, you used to see them in the road. They used to have GPO stamped on them. So that's how
I only remember seeing like what's it called? The BT logo on them. The one with the trumpet, and it was yellow.
Yeah. The General Post Office, which controlled all broadcasting in the UK at the time, Eckersley produced millions of free pamphlets on oscillation. Yeah, at the taxpayer's cost. Editions of the oscillation pamphlet after 1927 bore cartoon illustrations to offset the dictatorial tone. So obviously they knew they were being fucking nanny state. The distribution of oscillation pamphlets heralded the start of a wireless paranoia as the BBC encouraged correspondents to anonymously identify suspected oscillators. So the BBC's always been like a snitchy backstabbing organisation that hates the people that use it. Then it's nothing new.
Well, so you're telling me the state propaganda has like contempt for those they're propagandizing against?
Yeah, exactly.
Say it ain't so, Hemmy. Say it ain't so. I want you to refute these calumnies right now.
What's this? The distribution of oscillation pamphlets heralded the start of wireless paranoia, as the BBC encouraged correspondents to anonymously identify suspected oscillators in their neighbourhoods, who would then receive a pamphlet. The receipt of an oscillation pamphlet would indicate to a householder that busybody informant had accused them of oscillating. This is fucking Stasi and everything all rolled into one, isn't it? Is this what's the thing?
Like,
Is it the Scarlet Letter or something? Well, when was that from?
This feels like Greta Thunberg. I hate this.
This is there you go. Present day is nothing new, Hobbit. Like what's happening now is nothing new whatsoever.
Well, it sure is glad to know. Well, I don't think people were giving off Bluetooth signals.
Have you ever heard the phrase "There's nothing new under the sun"?
Yes, I have.
So this is the living embodiment of it. There was also a customer visiting a suspected oscillator and stuffing into his letterbox an anti-oscillation pamphlet or an
And dog
accusatory
dirt.
or an accusatory anonymous letter. Oscillation
some
caused
dog dirt.
neighbours to become suspicious of each other, and as one newspaper put it, the furtive detective work that follows is not calculated to maintain the hitherto harmonious relationships of the area.
Yeah, right.
So there you go.
But-
The BBC has been dividing and conquering since the 20s.
What a bunch of shit. By the way, if you would like to know about not paying for your television license and how to go about
Is it banthebbc.com? I used to follow him on Twitter.
there's also Chili Conjani. He's a YouTube channel, and he does a lot of videos giving advice and what have you about what you can do if you don't want to watch live BBC anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
apparently Tate's 33 cars have been... Why does he own 33 cars, Hobbit? Freemasonry? There you go, he's telling you, look.
Well, why have one car when you could have 33, though?
Because he's an...
Maybe he's got...
Why couldn't he have 32 or 34? It's because he's... Or even 37, which is a base number.
Do we have a list of what his cars? I really hope he's got like a Seat Ibiza or a Nissan Micra.
No, he's absolutely got a Seat Leon GTI, hasn't he?
Oh, I was going to say, is he got like a Volkswagen Lupo or Polo or 1 litre?
So what was in these pamphlets, you ask, Hobbit? The pamphlets...
No, the subject is a bunch of stuff. We're doing about oscillation at the moment.
Yeah. He's got a Bugatti Veyron, apparently. The pamphlets explain that if an oscillation tone was heard and its pitch could be altered by the turning dial, then the reader was oscillating. Don't do it was
I'm
the mantra.
picking up good oscillations.
For God's sake, think of the children. Stop oscillating. If only the volume changed, it was somebody else oscillating. And the question was, who? Reasons for oscillation varied. Ignorance, selfish tuning technique, or pure devilment. The absurd...
Yes, hatred. It's just sheer hatred for the BBC is why anybody would do it.
Anti-Semitic transphobia, that's what it is.
It is, it's just like the people back then, the Q-tard, conspiratards, the retards seem to get...
January the 6th.
Well, retards seem to get used a lot as a prerogative when describing these people, but I thought they're just differently abled, so why would you use that as a slur? But anyway, these people that hate Greta Thunberg in the 1920s, they were doing all this stuff and they're evil.
The absurd aspect of Trump fans from the 1920s. The absurd aspect of oscillation lent itself
9/11 deniers
to parody in they're World War II deniers in parody in radio.
I was going to say they're 9/11 deniers because it's like no, it's the 11th of the 9th.
Yeah.
It was an American conspiracy to get us to use their dating format, and I'm not standing for it.
One early example is notable for its... This is why 7/7 happened on 7/7, weren't it?
That was it. It was just basically the MI5's like, we won't counteract the American CIA glow-in-the-dark narrative, so we'll put it on 7/7, and that way there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, there is ambiguity, you mean?
Wait.
You can have the day first or month first format.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I'm saying it happened on 7/7, so you could have the day first or the month first, and it didn't matter. Everyone could call it 7/7.
I'm confused.
It's MI5 pandering to the Yanks, is what I'm saying 7/7 is.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's like not to step on their toes.
Yeah, so we can all call it 7/7, and nobody has a problem with it being 7/7.
Oh, I've got a problem with it being 7/7.
Yeah,
I think it's shit.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the documentary about 7/7 you want to watch, you just type in 7/7 Muad'Dib, and the guy got a knock on the door. Oh yeah, Muad'Dib in the chat. Yeah, he got a knock on the door from the. I keep wanting to use Terry Davis term, but I'm not allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's like, oh, sorry, it looks like you've had a little too much to think, fellow citizen.
Anyway, this one early example I keep trying to tell you about Hobbit is notable for its use of radiophonic electronic sound. The Birmingham BBC station,
Radiophonic,
inspired by the
electronic.
American communication test, produced a prank in 1924, which was a pantomime that was seemingly interrupted by an American station coming through. It was a spoof. Poor reception was acoustically simulated by the sound of a lead shot in a kettle drum, rustling paper, breaking wood, and the sound of a valve oscillating. Okay, just now you know, Hobbit. If you want to make it yourself, so if you want to make poor reception, so you do it. So it's the lead shot in a kettle drum, rustling paper, breaking wood, and the sound of a valve oscillating. If you know that sound.
Yeah, I mean, I know the sound of oscillating, but I'm just thinking this sounds a bit like when they got Scooby Doo, and it's like, no, it's not ghosts. It's just it's some mirrors and a comb. He's just blowing on a comb to make the spooky noise.
So you remember when the BBC did their incredibly funny TV series Noughts and Crosses about what if black people ran the country instead of white people. So in 1927 they were still doing the same. Another noteworthy radio drama was a 1927 mock trial of an oscillator named Mr. Oscillator, aka Mr. Knob Twiddler, who had been caught oscillating red-handed and held in police custody. This was the punishment many wished would befall those who radiated the discordant.
Oh, so is the funny thing
those
about
of
it
souls in torment.
when like the blacks judged him guilty? This like, right, punishments, we're going to put a tie around you and set you on fire.
Yeah, I think the BBC would have been quite happy with that punishment.
Well, it is they culture. As we know.
An accident in 1925 involving an airship caused oscillation to be taken more seriously. During the stormy night of 16th of April 1925, a gust of wind broke the R-33 airship free from its mooring at Pulham, Norfolk, damaging its nose. A small crew happened to be on board, thankfully with a transmitter operated by Spencer Thomas Keeley, who kept up communication with ground stations that helped guide the airship. After 30 hours adrift over the North Sea, the R-33 managed to land again safely. According to a post office announcement, the airship's wavelength was interfered with by people oscillating, and this could have jeopardised the communications. It is not known whether the post office exploited the R-33 incident.
Oh my God.
Early. Oh fuck! What's the name for it? Like government sponsored ops. Oh fuck! What's the word I'm thinking of?
A false flag, right?
False flag. That's it. Yeah. Early
Mm-hmm.
government false flag, isn't it? This is just like this is everything that's happening today, and it's always here you go. It's always happened. There is nothing new under the sun, as Hobbit likes to say.
Yeah.
So the R-33 was a false flag. Should we put that on Twitter? R-33 was a false flag. It's not known whether the post office exploited the R-33 incident to highlight the issue of oscillation, but it resonated with one correspondent who wrote to the Yorkshire Post, stressing that the R-33 had been lost and the oscillator or oscillators were discovered. They should have been tried for manslaughter. Doesn't this remind you of like COVID stuff? That one person
really
not
is.
wearing his mask. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, oh, we should take away the rights and we should take the children off of them because, so they can be prevented from oscillating harm.
Yeah.
And I was going to say the other thing that the modern stuff does, but you're not allowed to say that on YouTube.
Yeah, you just got to talk about oscillating, Hobbit.
Yeah, and also you should prevent them from ever owning a radio set again, or for holding a job for that matter, so that they starve.
They should starve. Their children should be taken off them, and it's funny.
Yeah, and the children should be given safe radio sets. Don't do any oscillating.
Mm. Local newspapers regularly featured letters from angry listeners complaining of oscillation, variously signing themselves off as anti-oscillator, annoyed, fed up, disgusted, and in one case, bloodthirsty. It was said that offenders attempt to justify themselves by proclaiming their right to hoot at
Yeah, that's the thing. You're not allowed to say, like, hey, this is not a two-way thing. It's not YouTube. It's the BBC, and you can go die in a fire.
Right, I've finished now. I can tell that sentence properly. It was said that offenders attempt to justify themselves by proclaiming their right to hoot at a bad show at a theatre. So basically, this is early shit. This is early fucking YouTube comment shit, isn't it? It's like,
don't people have a right to reply? I mean, if you're putting something out, wouldn't you want audience feedback on whether it was good or not?
How dare you say that She-Hulk is shit? How very fucking dare you?
Ah, well, that's just because you're an incel with a limp penis.
Yeah, how dare you say that Lord of the Rings of Power was absolute garbage? How dare you?
Well, I always said it was stunning and brave.
Yeah.
Especially the Greta Thunberg plotline where all the blacks...
You're not the ancestor of an oscillator, are you, Hobbit?
No, but I'm just sort of thinking. I thought it was stunning and brave. You see, when they had the plotline that Greta Thunberg insisted they have, where all the blacks are killed by the end of the Third Age. I mean, that's not what I would have put, but Amazon went ahead with it.
Mm. They're doing the lead up to the Holocaust, aren't they?
Yeah, there's just like there's no blacks in Middle Earth after the Third Age, so or is it Second Age?
Yet oscillation.
Some do tell me.
Yet oscillation could be heard by many thousands of listeners. Captain Eckersley pleaded, "Can we not have ether manners as well as ordinary manners?"
Ether man.
when one person oscillated, there was often revenge oscillation in return. The Nottingham Evening Post stated, "This howl for a squeak terror is scandalous and is something the authorities must really put their foot down upon without delay." Referring to oscillating pests, as one correspondent argued, that most of these delinquents gloat over the fact they've built their own. I just can't help but see parallels with like modern day fucking shit posting in YouTube comments.
They really can't stand any ridicule. These people are so fucking serious.
Yeah, and they
the
always
idea
have been.
The idea that someone would dare talk to these gods and, like, you know, blow raspberries in their face, it makes them absolutely livid, doesn't it?
Yeah,
they can't stand it.
Yeah. So what was it? Referring to these oscillating pests, as one correspondent argued, many of these delinquents gloat over the fact that they have built their own set, which I term sets of torture for themselves and others.
So I'm going to say, like you know, because this isn't an issue anymore, and it wasn't an issue even when people are still using AM radio. I assume the BBC enacted their final solution.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. Hold on, I just got to blow my nose.
The final solution to oscillation, no more right to reply. Although that said, in the 1990s,
and then in the modern day, they forgot the lessons of oscillation and opened up YouTube comments, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, you know, originally it was like libertarians that made YouTube, and then it got bought up by totalitarians.
Mm.
We're still on YouTube. We're still on YouTube because we're part of the system. Yeah.
The proliferation of freak circuits and wireless magazines attracted some blame. People like radicalised by wireless magazines.
Yes,
and oscillation was often linked with radio licence fee evasion, as evaders were not under the threat of having their licence cancelled if found out.
Can't have your licence cancelled if you don't have a licence.
Fucking hell! Can't cancel my licence. We tend
cancel
to
this bitch.
Oh! Look, they've actually realised on this one. We tend to view trolling as popularised by the internet as a modern phenomenon, but the imp of the perverse was alive and well in the ether of 1920s and 1930s.
Imp of the perverse. It's a bit melodramatic. I mean, it's just, you know, a bit of banter.
I'm loving the language in this one. Oscillating ghouls aroused genuine vitriol, with one reporter fuming that on Saturday night at Withensea there was a person oscillating with so little regard to decency as to constitute an outrage.
So when the kids these days say, "What are you doing?" they say, "Nothing, just vibing." What they're basically saying is they're committing terrorism.
Nothing, just oscillating.
Yeah.
Sunday sermons provided sport for oscillators. One angry listener described a sacred service where the air was so full of oscillators who created a feud during the whole broadcast, seemingly seeking to chase one another off the ether. This sounds like the Seth Rogen comment section, doesn't it? Another correspondent related an extraordinary case of vaudeville programme where 3 or 4 fanatics oscillated together. There's no doubt these pests had arranged a plan. The reaction...
Oh my God, people conspiring together to do a coordinated shitpost.
To do an oscillation.
Shut it down.
There is no... the reaction dial was too coarse to produce melodic interventions, but reports indicate that instances of beating in time with music and rhythmic oscillation over concerts, oscillation with malice over the national anthem, led one Nottingham listener to believe there was a Bolshie in our midst. An alarmist reporter attracted some ridicule by questioning whether mass isolation was a rehearsal by communist agitators, testing whether the BBC could be blocked out. Those damn communists.
Nice.
Oh dear. Political speeches were sometimes oscillated upon by opponents, but not as often as one might have expected. In Germany, incidentally, this became an imprisonable offence. Of course, fucking Germany.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised they didn't have mass graves of oscillators in Germany.
They probably did, but they got covered up by other statistics.
Yes.
During the general strike of May 1926, the government feared that channels of official communication might be disrupted. A headline in the Socialist Daily Herald ran, "Beware of wireless, the government controls it." The oscillation's turning the freaking frogs gay. And explained how oscillation on a large scale could just disrupt broadcasting. This prompted a police raid on the premises where the newspaper was printed, followed by an impassioned debate in the House of Commons on the freedom of the press. The oscillation fears were unfounded. The newspaper was not printing seditious material, and the strike played out with very little wireless oscillation. Radio broadcasts were an important source of news for strikers and non-strikers alike. War against the oscillators. Oscillating chaos on the airwaves precipitated witch hunts against oscillators. Oscillator awareness was kick-started in April 1926 when the BBC began naming and shaming districts harbouring oscillators. This is fucking hell. This is as the commies would say on the BBC. This is like Nazi Germany. It's fucking crazy.
I sure love living in this totalitarian fascist state. There, no, I knew I could say it if I just tried hard enough.
Are we going to find out that there were mass oscillator camps?
Well, we don't speak about the mass oscillator camps.
No, we don't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're only in Poland.
April 1920. So oscillator awareness was kick-started in April 1926 when the BBC began naming and shaming districts harbouring oscillators. One newspaper proposed that the next step, of course, is to give the numbers of various houses. Fucking is this like Jordan Peterson and he's like nobody should be anonymous? Shit.
Oh, you anonymous demon troll cowards.
Yeah.
What if it's just a fucking old guy who can't hear very well and turns up the volume by accident? Is he really committing a crime?
Yeah.
Let's go and fucking name and shame Grandad here.
Well, this is it, or just like somebody like I'd probably do it the lazy way as well. You know, where you get the noise either side of the radio station.
Just like the idea of Norm Macdonald just going, "Meh."
Naming a location on air required a complaint signed by 6 people. In January 1927, the GPO launched its detector van to track down persistent oscillators, and a second van was unveiled some months later. I suppose this one is actually possible, though, isn't it, Hobbit, to pick up oscillators?
I mean, yeah, you got some radio receiving equipment, but how are you going to triangulate it, bitch?
Well, you can't triangulate in the van, can you? In one van, can you?
Well, you can if you have multiple antennas, but again, it's more like it's more propaganda tool than it is an effective thing for detecting miscreant ne'er-do-wells.
But this is the stuff that they criticise like totalitarian Russia for and Germany, isn't it? This kind of shit that goes on.
At least we're not speaking German.
Yeah. At least we haven't got detector vans. Oh.
Yep.
We're
still on the air.
In January 19... Yeah, I think we are. We're not. Mama Susan doesn't mind us shit talking the BBC. In January 1927, the GPO launched its detector van to track down persistent oscillators. Second van was unveiled some months later. One van was based in London, another in Manchester. In 1931, there was also rumoured to be a ghost car, a detector disguised as a normal car, but its existence is uncertain. The detection vans carried direction-finding frame aerials on their roof, rotatable from the inside, within which were customarily 2 operators and a driver. So is that possible just with like a coat hanger on your roof then, I bet?
Yeah, well, you know, there's a crude antenna. You could make a fancier one, but more or less.
So I assume the frame aerial would it be like a dead spot on the back? So if you had something where radio waves couldn't penetrate on the back, and you pointed it towards an oscillating house, then you would be able to figure out where an oscillating house was, wouldn't you, Hobbit?
You know, the guy who I really should speak to about this is my uncle. He holds a ham radio license. So I got a 2-way radio recently, and he was helping me program it. And I said to him, "Oh, they're talking. We should respond." He says, "Oh no, you can't do that. That's piracy. You need to get a license." I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to disturb the boomers. They'll say, hey, stop oscillating."
Yeah.
What's your call sign? My call sign is KIKE.
I thought you were going to say your call sign's Oscillator King. Oh dear. Yeah, you'll have to speak to your uncle about this one.
Call me Oscillator.
Yeah. Oscillator Snake. Oh dear. Frame. Sometimes a van would park in a public square on market day or outside a train station in the evening. So there you go. It just shows it was bullshit, because otherwise they'd be driving around neighbourhoods, wouldn't they?
It's just deterrence. They'll never. Oh, we better do what they say because
they exist.
Yep.
So they actually say a conspicuous site for workers returning home to create a moral effect amongst oscillators as well as unlicensed listeners. Forever. It's like, how old is the BBC? They must have been like years old at this point, and they were still paranoid about wringing every penny out of everybody.
Maybe it was always. That was always the intent.
The more things change, the more they stay the same, don't they? Oscillation angst led to outbreaks of irrationality. Regional BBC station director JCS McGregor described a letter sent to the BBC by a man who he believed had a personal grudge against him and was somehow throwing darts into his head by oscillation to drive him mad. McGregor joked
Good to see that schizophrenics aren't a recent phenomena.
It's just like none of it's new, is it? McGregor joked that
I'm being gang stalked by oscillators.
McGregor joked that many victims of oscillation would sympathise with the poor victim whose head was splitting under the rain of ethereal darts. A sense of malign intrusion characterises schizophrenia, in which this case oscillation seems to have played into.
Chinese waterboarding, hold my fucking beer. We've got an old kid on the block. Fucking hell.
Yeah, oscillation.
Who needs water when you could just oscillate someone and just bombard them with radios?
Show them, I'll show them all.
Oh dear.
Fucking hell.
GPO detector vans, aka radio investigation vans, were later said to be capable of detecting licence evaders. This was an unusual development, as it was implied the vans could detect non-oscillating radios, casting some doubt on the technology being used. Yeah, a bit like the TV licence detector vans. So this is an old tactic of the again something fucking ancient that the BBC did.
No, I mean, this is what's that saying? Those that don't read history are doomed to repeat it. I think this is quite apropos of the current situation.
Yeah.
Look at me using the word apropos correctly. Oh, let me just fan my own balls for a bit. Oh.
Indeed, an expose soon followed, revealing the vans were just a psychological deterrent, ineffective at pinpointing oscillation, and certainly incapable of detecting unlicensed radios. Captain Eckersley
you say it's just a
site.
record it from mine and then stream to your channel.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my OBS. I stopped it for a while, didn't I? By update, maybe it needs an update. We're back live again.
Way.
Nob says BBC detector van struck the stream.
That's it. Yep, you got it.
You don't have a streaming license. There you go.
So whenever a detector, so again, these are all like old tricks that the BBC does, like the shaming, trying to shame you into paying your TV license and stuff like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Bastards.
Knobheads.
Don't fall for it.
Yeah, don't fall for it. It's been bullshit since the 20s.
This is literally fucking. What is it? The fucking whose experiment was it? Fucking Milgram. The Milgram experiment.
The lab coat experiment.
Electric. Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally, it is that. Just like, will you comply? Now that we've got this deterrent, you can see it here. Will you comply now? It's like...
You must comply.
Oh, the good
you
thing,
own
the
a
good
television
thing is, by the way,
license.
Hobbit, I'm recording, so when you listen to the audio, you'll have the full lot.
I was going to say, how are you recording if OBS crashes?
Oh, fuck, it didn't it? Oh, right,
these are going to be the lost episodes, aren't they?
Well, just lost bits of episodes. Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about that. So the GPO BBC's war against oscillation attracted some criticism for its heavy-handedness, but most listeners hailed the campaign as the best way to root out oscillators. This is kind of like Brexiteers and things like that. You give people a name and then send the NPC attack dogs, don't you?
That's it.
The actual penalties were rather vague, ranging from fines to confiscation of equipment. The first person publicised as being punished for oscillation in October 1920. That'd be a fun one to find on Ancestry.com, wouldn't it? Find out one of your ancestors is an oscillator. Was made a scapegoat.
For the crime of oscillating, we sentence you to transportation to Australia.
So Mr. A. Britton of Ovendale Road, Fish Ponds, Bristol, simply had his licence cancelled.
Whoa. Read that again.
Was it Mr. A. Britton of Ovendale Road, Fish Ponds, Bristol?
Mr. A. Britton?
Yeah.
Did that guy actually exist? Answer
Mr.
on the postcard. Did that guy actually exist? Mr.
Is that
A.
like
Britton?
when the first person to be given a safe and effective medical treatment in the UK, his name was Richard Shakespeare?
Richard Shakespeare.
You remember Richard Shakespeare? He's dead now.
But this
Richard
news,
Shakespeare was the first person to be given a safe and effective.
Dick.
2 years ago, he
so
was.
literally some dick was the first person.
Yeah. I can't say what the safe and effective treatment is. All I know is it's safe and effective, and you
Safe
should
and
get
effective.
the boosters. Yeah.
But this news instilled wider fear into oscillation-inclined listeners. In 1929,
I'm picking up oscillations. You're picking up oscillations.
we're picking up with good vibrations. In 1929, the BBC Handbook reported that it received 15,000 complaints about oscillation. Like, yeah, as ever, the BBC getting fuck all complaints and going way out of whack about it. Radio broadcasting was popularised in the peacetime as a way of bringing people together, but ironically, the oscillation problem incited many violent disputes between neighbours. Well, that's the fucking idea, isn't it?
So the BBC Handbook on how to torture puppies,
Yeah.
which I think Mr. Fauci picked up afterwards.
Eyes were blacked over garden fences, aerials were chopped down, taunts were shouted, hair was pulled and faces clawed, and threats of murder were barked. I will ram this knife in your back, you oscillating... That's 4 stars, so I assume it's cunt.
No, the 4 stars means you anti-vaxxer.
Yeah. Among every... Trump. You Trump.
We disavow anti-vaxxers on this show, Susan Wojcicki.
Over the course of the 1930s, higher power radio stations, indoor directional aerials and better circuits and valves consigned to oscillation and the violent disagreements it spawned to oblivion. It wasn't quite the end of oscillation, however, in the hands of Leon Theremin and others it enjoyed a surprising musical afterlife. Oscillation also found its way onto a wider conflict than any imagined by the GPO of the 1920s. After the outbreak of World War II...
That's a bit of a whitewash, because Leon Theremin wasn't going like, oh, this will make an interesting musical instrument. No, he was like, yes, using the principles of capacitance and radio waves, I can make a proximity sensor to detect if any capitalist pig dogs enter our communist utopia.
Yeah. Dopey Chris is saying it was Bill Shakespeare.
I thought it was Richard Shakespeare. Sorry.
No, they literally absolutely took the piss out of you for it. Oscillation also found its...
having the audience. The contempt the audience has for me is immeasurable.
Oscillation also found its way into a wider conflict than any imagined by the GPO of the 1920s. After the outbreak of World War II, whole countries were actively jamming each other's signals, fighting an ether war by heterodyning tones or by overpowering each other's transmitters with other broadcasts. But that's another story.
I was going to say that there was also another war in the ether, which was... downright spooky Fortean stuff.
Hold on, wait. Didn't Einstein get rid of the ether in 1905 with his laws of relativity? So why are we fighting over the ether? Oh, guys.
Because quiet you, look away.
Yeah.
Funny enough, my granddad, God rest his soul now, unfortunately, but he was the sort of person who says, there's no such thing as the ether. And I'm like, I'm not aware of what the ether is. Can you explain it to me? So he went to tell me about how there was this theory that it's not space and relativity, it's the ether. And I was like, this sounds really interesting. Tell me more. So yeah, it's like people commonly believed in the ether was this...
Well, no. Everyone believed in the ether until Einstein.
Yes. Well,
and only Einstein came along after, people's attempts to debunk the ether had failed. Did they have to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater?
Well, when you say everybody believed in the ether, maybe there was a few Mongolian shepherds or people on the plains of the Serengeti that didn't know about it.
Okay. Hashtag not everyone believed in the fucking ether then.
Naxalts.
Fucking hell. Sorry, we have to do the hashtag not all here.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the show, Hemmingford Grey.
Yeah, I was going to do testicle thefts yet, but it's not as whimsical as the penis. But it's not as whimsical as the penis theft we're going to talk about in a bit. It's really not whimsical at all. Russian soap star Dmitry Nikolaev, 30, had a drink with a young blonde who approached him at a bar after he finished a performance at a small Moscow theatre. She then invited him to a sauna.
Was her name Ivana Humpalot?
Yeah, it's more like I want your testicles.
Chop your bollocks off.
Yeah. Huge Knickerbocker. It was a tranny. It was Huge Knickerbocker.
Huge Knickerbocker glory. Knickerbocker glory, yeah.
Hey, do you know why you shouldn't wear shorts in the Ukraine?
Why?
Chernobyl fallout.
Why you should never meet a Russian lady. And
So she then invited him to a sauna. Was Sarg on there? And though he was married, he agreed to go with her. They kissed and had some more beer. And after that, the actor remembers nothing, said a police source. He woke up the next day at a bus stop, feeling acute pain with blood on his trousers. Rushed to hospital, he was told that his testicles had been removed cleanly and professionally by someone with a medical education, a doctor or perhaps a vet. Police believe his beer was spiked by a gang seeking to sell human organs on the black market. Billed as the Sun Doctor, suggests testicles could be sold for use in bogus aphrodisiac or fertility treatment. The actor, we are told, is now working as a children's animator.
fucking hell. I'm becoming a priest. I'm not taking the risk. Okay.
So, the Urban Legend website...
I've heard of bollock breakers
The
before,
Urban Legend website Snopes. Hold on a minute. Snopes has been around since 2015. I thought
Snopes has been around a lot longer than 2015. I remember it in the noughties.
Oh, so they used to debunk urban legends. Is that how they started out? Before they turned into a fact-checking website?
Well, that was the thing. It was just like, rumour has it, and then Snopes would be like, well, actually... that was the raison d'etre.
So Snopes say it's highly unlikely such a crime as the one described truly constitutes a profit centre for gangs in any country. So that means like massive amount if you want to nick someone's testicles.
Is there a big demand for testicles?
I think Dimitri.
What do you call a group of testicles?
I think Dmitry Nikolaev has a high demand for them.
Well, he's looking for two at least.
Someone earlier said Hobbit's fireplace was CGI.
No, we've established this. That the hand is CGI. The voice actor is some British bloke. But the fireplace is real. The fire is real. The judgments are final.
Oh, it says the translated article from which the claims arose concluded with a claim that the man's wife remained ignorant of his experience, which is rather implausible given that his full name and other identifying details are released by the media. Interestingly, the wife of the injured man is still convinced that her husband was in the hospital because of surgery on his genitals caused by a serious illness. Okay.
Cool.
So another one is, according to India Today, obviously great news.
India Today, most reliable magazine in India.
Gonna meet Ram Saim Singh, an Indian pop star and telepreacher with a reported wealth of more than 30 million, is being investigated after he allegedly manipulated around 400 men into removing their testicles to be closer to God. Hans Raj Chauhan, one of his former... Was that Brutus's Indian name? One of his former followers who underwent castration 7 years ago is one of the few to break the silence to speak out against him and Dera Sacha Sauda organisation. Chauhan filed a petition against the Guru in 2012, and the Central Bureau of Investigation has started looking into claims dating as far back as 2000 in preparations of charges of grievous bodily harm. At a conference in January for his new film, Singh said, Such allegations disturb me when I am doing good for humanity. Therefore, my legal advisor and I are going to challenge them in court.
Sir, I am doing the needful. Please do not redeem.
The alleged castrations were said to be mainly carried out at a hospital run by the DSS in Singh's ancestral village, Gursa Madia, in the Hamangar district of Rajasthan. The DSS also owns factories, markets, farms, restaurants and hotels, and runs schools and orphanages.
You know.
What else? This goes into organ thefts now. So the UN Security Council has been told that Daesh, obviously you can't, because they don't like being called ISIS. No, they like being called ISIS, but they don't like being called Daesh, do they? Is funding its insurgency by harvesting organs. Shallow graves full of corpses with missing kidneys and other body parts have been discovered. I don't really know how true much of this stuff they say about ISIS is, because there's not even any decent footage of them fighting in Syria, is there?
The one thing which I've always found suspicious is like, why when you say the West is the great Satan and you accidentally blow up an Israeli convoy, do you then write a profuse letter of apology saying, we're sorry for blowing up your convoy there, Israelis, we won't do it again, signed leader of ISIS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these bodies apparently were found in Mosul. But see, such organ theft stories in a war context have circulated before. For instance, Albanians dissecting Serbs, Israelis dissecting Palestinians. Well, I Am Jazz got dissected by an Israeli, didn't she?
Just so you know, the two places in the world where there are no waiting lists for organs are China and Israel.
Oh.
I'm not saying why. I'm just saying
they have highly efficient. Because they have highly efficient healthcare systems. What reason would you be saying it's for, Hobbit?
Well, I wouldn't, because that would be anti-Jew, and Susan Wojcicki, I'm not anti-you. Nope. Say it ain't so. Refute these calumnies.
This is something we were going to talk. Have we talked about this before, or we're going to talk about it? I'll read the story and then you'll know, Hobbit. Kevin Mashford, 38, was born with a congenital heart condition and has a number of major operations. He has had 3 pacemakers fitted and suffered a stroke that almost killed him, but went on to recover and set up his own design and project management business. However, his condition deteriorated and he was given only 2 weeks to live. In May 2014, the married father of 2 was given a heart transplant at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle. Doctors told him his new heart came from a man named John.
Do it like you're a BBC presenter.
I can't do that.
Newcastle.
Sorry, Newcastle. That's how you have to say it there.
Newcastle.
No, it's
Newcastle.
Newcastle. Have you never heard anyone call it Newcastle?
I don't listen to enough telly to tell you. Sorry,
No.
I've heard people calling it Newcastle before.
Is that when they go Baker Grove?
Yeah, Baker Grove. Oi. Doctors told him his new heart came from a man named John, an avid cyclist killed in a collision with a car while out riding.
Sergeant Oikwinson knows Cooked and Bombed. Yes, I was. I know about them because they posted all the Chris Morris radio shows.
Steve, 7 days after his 13-hour operation, Mr. Mashford asked for an exercise bike and cycled 7 minutes every day. Despite barely having cycled before, he took to the saddle as soon as he left hospital and is regularly clocking up the miles. I completed a 30-mile charity cycle in John's memory. He said a year later I rode 54 miles from London to Brighton. He's gearing up for a challenging 342-mile ride from his home in Backwell, North Somerset to Newcastle. I feel that I've got a big sense of responsibility to my donor and his family in a way. He said doing a bike ride like that in his memory is the least I can do. I think about him because without him I wouldn't be cycling. There's a lot more to this, but I can't bother to read it. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? People who have organs from people tend to take on characteristics of the organ donor, don't they?
Yeah, because your heart is essentially your personality, as second only to the brain, the most amount of brain matter in it. So it's inevitable that when you got someone's heart in, they would do it. The other thing is, when you have a gut feeling, that really is a gut feeling, because the third place to have brain grey tissue is the gut.
Gary Schwartz a professor of medicine at the University of Arizona, has documented 70 cases and argued that cellular memory affects at least 10% of all people who've had a heart, lung, kidney, or liver transplant. His findings are backed up by Paul Purcell, the author of The Heart's Code. Examples include Dottie O'Connor, a Massachusetts woman with vertigo who became a climber, Paul Olam, a Milwaukee lawyer who began eating Snickers, having always hated chocolate, a 7-year-old girl who had nightmares about being killed after being given the heart of a murdered child, and a 29-year-old.
Oh, fucking hell, grim. Oh,
and the best one of all, a 29-year-old lesbian fast food junkie who became a heterosexual vegetarian after being given the heart of a teenage girl.
So being cured in a way.
Twice. Being cured twice.
Oh, also, I'd like it to be known. The stuff they say with parasites, and when you get the parasites out, it changes your behaviour. It's not just animals that do that. Humans are also subject to getting parasitic infections, and when you clear that, there are also changes in your behaviour. But as conversion therapy and even talking about it on YouTube is illegal, I won't talk about it.
I thought I'd had some fucking penis theft stories lined up.
In Scotland, to even mention conversion therapy is a hate crime.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Count Duckula made a video about it recently.
Really? Okay, then.
Yeah, it's got really bad in fucking Scotland, mate.
Well, I know, I live here.
If you,
No, I know.
no, you know people that live there. Of course, you wouldn't be going from the
No,
that area at
that's
all.
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You mean the People's Republic of Democratic Scotland?
People's Democratic Republic of Scotland, that's it, yeah.
Because that's what you do when you have a dictatorship, you call it Democratic Republic, though, yeah?
With dear leader Susan Boyle. No, hang on. Boyle's
Jimmy
not a type of
Cranky.
fish.
Jimmy Cranky.
Nicola Sturgeon, that's it.
Yeah, what is it with Scottish politicians all being fishes?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Don't know.
Michael Fish, Alexander Salmond, Nicola Sturgeon, Captain Haddock.
Birdseye, yeah.
Yep.
Captain Birdseye, yeah. Captain Fishy.
Just gotta bread them.
So, we've talked about testicle theft, although I thought that might be a bit more whimsical, like penis theft. But penis theft is quite whimsical. It's quite a funny story.
Yes. It's so amusing getting your willy stolen.
A penis
Man
theft.
dem losing Winky.
Where's my bubble phone? I need to cancel my date. My penis has been stolen. A penis theft episode typically involves 4 stages. First, the victim has an odd encounter, such as a stranger unexpectedly shaking his hands, like Mr. Shaky Hands. Was he going around nicking penises then, was he? Do you remember Mr. Shake Hands?
Mr. Shake Hands, man.
Yeah.
He shake your hand. Now your penis gone. Ha ha ha. Funny.
Banzai. How long till the man realise his penis is gone?
Would it be, hey, 10 seconds. B, 40 seconds. Over 1 minute. Play spits now. Banzai is such a good show.
Next, the sensation of electric shock or a chill travelling to his genitals. Third, he checks his crotch and becomes convinced his penis, testicles, or both have been stolen or shrunken. The final step is crying, "Thief! You are a thief!
Yeah.
Where's my penis? Bring my penis back." And enlisting others to confront the suspect, sometimes with the victim stripping on the spot to prove his genitals are gone. When an epidemic swept Nigeria in 1990, men walked around grasping their penises to prevent theft. They literally mud-dick to prevent theft. The result of this...
So you see, we don't understand that, what with our white supremacy and everything. Yeah. We're actually grabbing hold of their testicles. It's like...
That's why are those gangsters, they hold their dick and...
Yeah, because they know...
Jacko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shamona.
Yeah.
Check the knob. The result of this delusional drama can be pretty ugly. About 20 witches accused of penis theft were lynched in Nigeria in 2001 and 12 in Ghana in 2002. One survey counted 56 separate cases between 1997 and 2003, with at least 36 suspected thieves murdered. In 2008, in a 2008 outbreak in Congo, urgent messages were sent out by radio to avoid strangers wearing gold rings in taxis.
When you say, because there's two countries with the word Congo in it, do you mean the Democratic People's Republic of the Congo, or do you mean the Democratic Republic of Congo?
They don't say. Ignorant.
Oh, so
they're just ignorant.
Yeah. They're being ignorant. They're ignorant.
Leading police to put 13 suspected sorcerers into protective custody to prevent lynchings.
What's your job? Sorcerer.
Yeah. What do you
Big
do?
demand
Nick
for that,
penises.
Yeah.
The Orientals have their version, and they call it Koro. Koro isn't blamed on sorcery. In 1967, an outbreak in Singapore was triggered by a rumour repeated in news reports that eating meat from pigs inoculated against swine fever would lead to Koro. While pork rotted on the shelves, frightened men crowded the hospitals with 469 victims by the time the panic ran its course. In 2004, a Koro outbreak in the Guangdong region.
Guangdong.
Gondong, more like Gondong region of China, started when a third grader became convinced his penis was shrinking. While his mother held the kid's member, a local healer used traditional medicine to cure him. That might have been that, except the school principal then felt compelled to announce that the boys should be careful of their penises. Numerous students...
So there was a real penis inspection day.
Numerous students suddenly felt their penises shrinking until the same healer put things right. Is this like the Jimmy Savile of faith healers then, is it? On the bright side, a mere 64 kids profess to be afflicted. An improvement over
Jim,
an earlier...
my penis has shrunk. Can you fix it for me?
Yeah. An improvement over an earlier Koro outbreak in the region that affected more than 2,000.
Oh.
It just got really cold.
Yeah, just a bad day. So I think I found on Reuters the Congo. So it's in Kinshasa. So which Congo is that in, Hobbit?
Kinshasa.
Which Congo is that?
Den police in Day Congo have arrested 13 suspected sorcerers accused of using black magic to steal or shrink men's penises after a wave of panic and attempted lynchings triggered by the alleged witchcraft. Reports of so-called... Go on then.
So, Kinshasa is the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is not to be confused with Brazzaville, which is the Republic of the Congo. And I got curious once. I did this like a cafe, Restaurant Bord de Filève, which is in Brazzaville, and I said, okay, how long would it take to go from there to this place in the south called...
You see what Oiquinson's put? He's put, who teethed me dong?
Oh, it actually suggests like it's got a crossing now. So this was new because I did this a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it said that it would have taken you about 30 hours because you've got to go up these roads. But no, it's suggesting now if I want to go from...
roads? Holy shit.
Yeah. There's actually a grid alignment in Kinshasa. And Brazzaville also has a grid block layout. But yeah, there's... the Brazzaville Ferry. So I'm guessing...
Wait, are we talking about Brazers here, or are we talking about...
So, Kinshasa, and to the north of it, there is the town of Brazzaville. And so they must have... The People's Republic of the Congo and the Congo's People's Republic must have finally reconciled the differences. And
Splitters.
Yeah, that's it. So the oscillators are allowed to cross over to Kinshasa.
Reports of so-called penis snatching. I'm sure the victims don't think it's so-called penis snatching, do they? Do you love the overuse of so-called? Do you remember so-called ISIS and so-called Desh, all that bollocks.
So-called a Hobbit's biography where he so-called climbed to the top of Mount Everest, where he so-called sodomized a goat. So-called.
Reports of so-called penis snatching are not uncommon in West Africa, where belief in traditional religions
So-called traditional religions.
so-called traditional, and witchcraft. There's no such thing as tradition, is there?
So-called witchcraft.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the word,
remains
man.
so-called widespread, and where ritual killings to obtain so-called blood or so-called body parts still occur. So-called rumours of so-called penis theft began circulating last week in so-called Kinshasa, the so-called Democratic Republic of Congo's sprawling so-called capital of some so-called 8 million... I'm going to stop doing that now, it's annoying. They quickly dominated...
I was enjoying it.
It's just like, you can just overuse so-called, like, it's stupid, isn't it?
Right, so press... No, instead of doing 1 in the chat or 2s in the chats, I want to see, like, in the chats, should we carry on using the term allegedly or so-called? So, vote for your favourite now by typing in the phrase.
1 for allegedly and 2
No, I don't want to use numbers because our audience aren't illiterate oiks, unlike Godwinson.
We'll allegedly use 1 for allegedly and so-called 2 for so-called.
So, allegedly, we're using 1 for allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They quickly dominated radio call-in shows, with listeners advised to beware of fellow passengers in communal taxis wearing gold rings.
Wait, I'm confused. Is so-called 1 or 2? Because Damon's written so-called. It's a sea of so-called.
Oh, is it so-called? They like the so-called.
The jury's in.
So-called purported victims, 14 of whom were detained by police, claimed that so-called sorcerers simply touched them to make their so-called genitals shrink or disappear.
Unlikely story.
In what some residents said was a so-called attempt to extort cash with the promise of a so-called cure.
Well, that's alleged.
Yeah. Jeez, I got to stop this. You just have to be accused of that, and people come after you. We have had a number of attempted lynchings. You see them covered in marks after being beaten. Kinsasha's so-called police chief, Jean Dudien Aleko, told so-called Reuters.
Dudien?
Jean Dudon?
Chief Agadoot.
Chief Baldo. Chief Jean
Do. Shaker. Bush and penis gun.
Jean Baldo. Baldo Aleko? I don't know, whatever his name is. Police arrested the so-called accused sorcerers and their so-called victims in an effort to avoid the sort of bloodshed seen in so-called Ghana a decade ago, when 12 so-called alleged suspect penis so-called snatchers were beaten to so-called death by alleged angry mobs. The 27 men have since been released. I'm tempted to say it's one huge joke. I am tempted to say it is one huge joke, Aleko said. But when you try to tell the victims their penises are still there, they tell you it's become tiny or they've become impotent. To them, I tell them, how do you know if you haven't gone home and tried it? He said. Just go and have a go with it, son. That's basically, there, son. Just go and have a go with it. Some Kinshasa residents accuse a separatist sect from the nearby so-called Basse Congo province of being behind the so-called witchcraft in revenge for an alleged government crackdown on its members. It is real. Just yesterday there was a man who was a victim. We saw what was left was tiny, said 20-year-old Elaine Kalala, who sells phone credits near a Kinshasa police station.
They're penis mad.
They're just knob insane.
I get the feeling that, like, money is not worth much over there, so, like, actual status is the size of your penis. I'm getting that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm getting the feeling the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo is not, democratically.
Well, the old police chief's got a few quid behind him. His status is secure. He doesn't need to worry about his dick, does he?
No. Are you talking about Kinshasa police or Brazzaville police?
Kinshasa.
Every time I see Brazzaville, I
so-called
think
Kinshasa.
Kinshasa.
Brazers. Fuck you.
Kinshasa.
Kinshasa. Ougado boo boo. Kinshasa.
Kinshasa on the loop. What do we want to talk about next? We spoke about a bit of organ theft.
Yeah.
Mugabe's magic boulder while we're in Africa. Give me a
okay.
sec, I've got to find this one. I really should put post-it notes in the pages, shouldn't I? Like a proper.
You should, yeah.
Why would you want to do that? Make your job easier. Preparation.
Yeah, I know.
Prep.
Preparation.
Prep is something used by homosexuals.
Oh, here's one. This is before I found it. It's from the conspiracy theory. It's some examples of Schadenfreude are closer to necrophilia than others. Take Simon Shack, for instance. This individual would like us to consider the possibility that at least 4 members of the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger, which famously, and this writer would suggest fairly publicly, exploded re-entry on 1986. But the thing is, though, Mr. fucking journalist, you couldn't see inside it, though, could you? You know the shuttle blew up, but you don't know who was on it, do you?
Have you ever seen that film, Columbia, where it talks about like a manned mission to Mars? And
you mean Capricorn 1?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
God, my nose is starting to get itchy now hearing your nose.
Yeah, I'm a bit snotty tonight. Given his alleged investigated method, I will no doubt take a short while for other intrepid conspiracy sleuths to find evidence for the suspicious survival of other crew members. The idea is simple, though. Take the names of crew members, Google those names, look for people, there are bound to be some, unless the name is particularly outlandish, which isn't the case for the Challenger crew, of a certain age who could, if you don't look too closely, resemble those crew members 30 years on. Post a photograph, and if there is some kind of resemblance, then you got yourself a theory. The chances of success are pretty high in a population of hundreds of millions. And if you can't find a photo fit ghoul for a particular person, substitute that person's brother. Don't bother to check if the brother happens to have a birth certificate or any other evidence having lived his own life. Just paste him in, cock your head to one side and say, just throwing that out there, if you know what I'm saying. Well, no one's going to believe that, are they? Actually, yes. Some people are going to believe that because one of the enduring ironies of this knee-jerk end of the conspiracy spectrum is what passes for doubt about establishment lies is so often a wrapping for a species of rampant gullibility. Is this bloke a bit angry or something?
Yeah, he sounds angry, doesn't he? Is he writing in caps yet? No?
No, he should be, though, shouldn't he?
Fucking hell.
Where...
Sounds a bit angry, yeah.
Oh, dear, I can't blow my nose again, for fuck's sake.
Why? It's like that people get angry at people being idiots.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the only thing that qualifies them as idiots is not believing exactly what they believe in.
Yeah.
People get very tetchy if you don't believe the same stuff they do. Why
it's weird, that, isn't it? It's like a conformity thing, isn't it? It's
It's like, why should it affect you whether I believe in the same things you believe in? Why you got to get upset about it, or is it
because Hobbit? One day I may have to believe what you believe. Yeah. That's how it works.
My belief doesn't work unless you believe in it. Is that it? Is that what I'm saying?
No.
Do you want to do? So this is
trust the science.
This is another one from 2015. The winner of this year's Diagram Prize for the oddest book title of the past year, announced by the bookseller on 26th of March, is Strangers Have the Best Candy by Margaret Mepps Schultz. Quite frankly, I'm relieved. What else have we got? How to Poo on a Date. Do you want to read that one, Hobbit? Cooking with poo. And if you want closure in your relationship, start with open.
Hang on,
your legs.
I've seen the book Cooking with Poo. It's not Vietnamese. It's a Taiwanese.
Oh, the geezer's name is Poo, is it?
No, it's a lady. Her name's Pooh, and she's like cooking with Pooh, and it's like her healthy, low-fat recipes.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those sea monkeys, Southeast Asia.
So what else is there? So the inaugural winner was was called Proceedings of the Second International Workshop on Nude Mice.
What? Nude mice?
Proceedings.
What, is it?
Proceedings of the Second International Workshop
I know
on
what
Nude
you said,
Mice.
but it's just like those words that don't make any sense in the order you said them.
What do you mean, nude mice?
I don't know what are you proceeding? I don't know. What's the proceedings? What
Is
proceedings
it a
are
court
going on?
case? What is it? Has some mice like streaked across the road?
Oh,
What is-
Poe.
Yeah.
Oh, Pooh won Aussie MasterChef, did she? I bet. Cooking with Pooh.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a Vietnamese or what's someone from Thailand called?
I don't know.
Apart from Sea Monkey.
Taiwanese. How about the 1996 winner?
No, that's someone from Taiwan.
Do you fancy reading this? This sounds like a right page turner. Greek rural postmen and their cancellation numbers.
That is almost as captivating as Lister's collection of 20th century telegraph poles.
That sounds almost as good as Spare, doesn't it?
Can I have a look at those slideshows of 20th century telegraph poles again?
So, a delighted Schultz commented, not since the stray shopping carts of Eastern North America has the prize been awarded to a book with such a potentially wide audience. So the runner-up was Diana Rachel's Divorcing a Real Witch for Pagans and the People Who Used to Love Them.
Used to?
Yeah. So the other 5 shortlist titles, which highlights a year of astonishing publishing depth, range and backguano eccentricity, according to the bookseller, were Nature's Nether Regions, Viking, a book about the evolution of genitals of bugs and birds and beasts. The Ugly Wife is a Treasure at Home. How about this one, Hobbit? This sounds right up your street. Advanced Pavement Research. Selected peer-reviewed papers from the 3rd International Conference on Concrete Pavements Design, Construction and Rehabilitation.
Yeah, I would actually read that.
Oh my god, it's just in a TED Talk format. That would be riveting.
Actually, I might have a look for this, see if I can find the Diagram Prize 2022. So what else is there? What else have we got in here? We've got Shanghai China Trans Tech. The Mad Woman in the Volvo, My Year of Raging Hormones. And Designing High Performance Stiffened Structures. How does that sound?
Different structure.
Yeah, actually, some of that stuff, I'm not taking the piss now. Genuinely would have a read of that stuff.
Tom Tivnan said, "Where do camels belong?" Is the existential question which has plagued philosophers for centuries.
What? No, it hasn't. Stop lying.
So what is it called? The diagram. Let's see if I can find this.
Camels and llamas are related? I didn't know.
Yeah, and alpacas as well.
Yeah, did you hear about the vegans that decided to start farming?
No, it was the transsexuals.
Sorry. Do you want to speak about this while I'm looking for this?
Yeah, so there was some... the transsexuals said, well, we can do it too. We're perfectly valid farmers. And being perfectly valid, ranchers, I suppose you could say. Do you want to go with sheep, cattle, pigs, goats? No, we'll deal with alpacas because that's an exotic creature. I think it got referred to as alpaca Birkenau because there's mass graves where over half of the alpacas have been buried because what with them being exotic, most vets can't deal with them because it's beyond the education. You need what's called an exotic vet in order to deal with them.
Oh, wow. So you not only have to do, human fucking biology, you have to do animal biology and exotic.
Yeah, because it's like, you know.
I found the diagram prize for the oddest books of this year.
Well, you see,
Christ,
most vets won't like, you know, they deal with stuff that people have, like cats, dogs, and if you're a livestock vet, you know, you deal
maybe
with
a turtle.
farmers.
My favourite
Holocaust.
Holocaust nickname themed nicknames are for Disney, because one of them they called it Mauschwitz, and then they got banned from calling it Mauschwitz. So they started calling it Duck Owl.
Oh my God.
I'm sure Walt Disney, what with all of his things that he was into, would have appreciated his studios being called Duck Owl.
Yeah, because I used to call it Mauschwitz, and then there was like a memo. It was like people would start getting sacked if you keep calling it Mauschwitz.
The boss doesn't like you referring to the workplace
Bob
as a concentration
Iger
camp.
isn't too keen on you calling it Mauschwitz.
Yeah, so and he also doesn't like the Duck and Owl.
So this year's titles are Rue Pedagogies of Realness, Essays on Teaching and Learning with RuPaul's Drag Race.
No.
Frankenstein was a vegetarian. Jane Austen and the Buddha, Teachers of Enlightenment. The Many Lives of Scary Clowns, Essays on Pennywise, Twisty the Joker, Krusty and more.
Oh, do we also want to cover, like, what's it called?
Smuggling Jesus back into the church.
Hang on.
How the church became
Clowns,
worldly and what to do about it.
Nephilim look like clowns. Do we want to cover that?
Yeah.
Oh, we can do that.
That's another topic for another subject.
Also, what nudism exposes. Not really as good as this year, are they?
No. What are these from? What are these headline titles?
Oh,
for?
fucking hell, 2021. This year's prize goes to Roy Schwartz for his Superman circumcised.
What?
I mean, apart from the absurdity of, you know, the like sadomasochistic Jewish fetish,
Yeah.
how would you go about, like, cutting the man of steel?
You couldn't actually do it unless you had a kryptonite scalpel. So what else have we got from last year? We've got curves for the mathematically curious. Handbook of research on health and environmental benefits of camel products. Hats, a very unnatural history. The life cycle of Russian things, from fish guts to Fabergé. Phil's not going to like that one. Miss, I don't give a shit. Engaging with challenging behaviour in schools.
Oh.
Yeah, so there you go. So that's it. That's last year's prize. So we're going to talk about... you got a picture for me, Hobbit, or an article or something?
No. Did we cover it briefly, like, the last time? That weird stuff in Patagonia and, like, the prisoner uniforms and...
No,
Chat, remind me, have we already talked about how the Nephilim are represented as clowns, and they look like clowns, and they sound like clowns, and in fact, Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit with the squeaky voice, that's how the Nephilim was said to speak, so... Don't know about that.
Oh, I found an
article. I think that's quite...
Oh, there's a YouTube video on it. Did you know that?
Yeah. I know what you're about. Conspiracy Horus, right?
Well, when YouTube was full of conspiracy videos.
Yeah, I know, but that's the name of the channel.
I found a forum where people are talking about it. One person says they had their faces covered because something had changed their beauty, had turned ugly, and they were so horrified they couldn't stand to see each other or have others see them. It seems that something like when certain colourful animals die, the carcasses lose the shine. I think whatever they appeared to look like before was very appealing, but the loss of gloss revealed a horror. And then I began to see stories of red-haired giants with pale skin, and it started to
smiling masks,
like clowns. What were you saying?
So is that why they got smiling masks, just to keep up like a facade? A facade? A facade. Sorry, I've been listening to King Cobra JFS saying facade. They used the term facade recently, and it was just it's highly regarded, as all things Kinko JFS
Oh, how about
does.
this one then? An Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working with them, and the bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the
Antimony?
eyelids. What's that, Hobbit?
I thought it was called antimony.
I've always heard it called antimony.
Oh, potato.
Yeah. The beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of costly stones and colouring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Amaros, the resolving of enchantments. Root cuttings. Could root be like the medieval word for penis?
No.
No?
You means herbology. Herbs.
Oh, okay then. So what this person says in this post is, it seems there was a shape-shifting aspect to him, and which somehow ceased working, and they couldn't appear appealing anymore, and ended up looking like zombie clowns.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
They lose their ability to cast an illusion. And speaking of illusion fields, we will be talking about that next week.
We spoke about it last week, didn't we?
We weren't around last week.
Well, last time we spoke about it, didn't we?
Last time on Fortean Words.
Last time on Fortean
Words. Last week on Fortean Words. Anything could happen in the next 2 hours. Stingray had such a great theme tune.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space was mentioned in this as well. Nothing too interesting. Definitely a lot of clowns. This is stolen history again. See what Reddit's got to say about it, shall we?
Well, we've done the 2 hours. So, do you want to... Shall we wrap it up? Do you want to do a bit of Unexplained Pistories?
Yeah, let's do a bit of Unexplained Pistories.
Unexplained Pistories. Unexplainedpistories.com. Largest known flower trapped in amber revealed in new images. That's good, because on poll recently, there's been guys saying, like, why is it all the stuff in amber looks like modern creatures? I mean, it's supposed to be like 200 million years old, and they look the same as plants and creatures now. And they're all the same size. Wasn't there supposed to be like giant things back then? An incredibly well-preserved flower dated back almost 40 million years has been the subject of a new study. Anyone with an interest in paleontology will undoubtedly wish they could get a glimpse of what our planet was like millions of years ago, but thanks to the remarkable preservation made possible by amber, we can at least take a limited peek at a few things from Earth's distant past. This intriguing example, the largest flower found preserved in amber, is particularly impressive.
Is this going to be like the skeletons where they find bigger and bigger things trapped in amber?
Right, so you excited for how massive this thing is?
Yeah, it's a whole 28 millimeters across.
Yeah, but it's still much larger than any other similar specimen.
Massive, Hobbit. Still,
28
much larger than any other similar specimen. It's fucking massive, Hobbit. That 28 millimeters is fucking massive, mate.
That's more than an inch.
That's fucking huge.
Yeah, and so it's thought to originate in the Baltic.
The superflora and fauna.
Creationist BTFO there, right there.
Yeah.
During they extracted pollen from the specimen, found it closely relates to a modern species of flower from Asia known as Symbochlocus. They have named it Symbochlocus kolowalski. Yeah, I'm good at pronouncing Symbochlocus. Yeah. What is the quantum apocalypse, and should we be worried? How about that? Some scientists believe that existing forms of data security and encryption will soon become obsolete. The so-called quantum apocalypse is not the typical end of the world scenario, but a potential point in time which quantum computers become so powerful that existing methods of encryption for everything from your computer password to your bank account become ineffectual. What they're not saying on this is both AMD and Intel, and I'm sure Apple are doing an equivalent, as well as ARM on the Android. Intel has something called the management engine, which is a hardware backdoor, and it loads up before the operating system, before the BIOS or anything. No, first of all, it's the BIOS, but then it's your processor in the Intel management engine, and it logs all keys pressed. So when you're typing in a password, it's logging in that. It logs what your mouse is doing. It even keeps IP addresses of all the websites you visited. So even if you think, it's all right, I'm going to use like, is it Tails Linux or Kali Linux?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to have it off of like a live CD, so there's nothing on it. Sorry, bitch. Intel Management Engine, there's like something the forensic criminologist can use to do you for looking at child pornography or for typing the N word on the internet.
Or discussing vaccines.
Or saying you're going to commit an oscillation crime on Radio 4 during Archers.
I'm gonna do a mass oscillate during the
I'm
Archers.
oscillating.
Anyway, it won't matter how strong your password is or how well it's encrypted. A sufficiently powerful quantum computer will be able to crack it within seconds. The evolution of quantum computers creates a significant threat to data security. Tim Callan, Chief Experience Officer at cybersecurity company Sectigo, told Mail Online. There are immense processing powers capable of breaking encryption at great speed, leaving important data vulnerable, everything from bank account details to medical records to state secrets. But maybe you shouldn't have state secrets online then, you dickhead. But could such a scenario actually happen? How much of an apocalypse would it be? What those warning of this eventuality take into account is likely the encryption technology also evolved to become more sophisticated as well. Several years down the line, it's likely that banks, for example, using far more advanced methods of security, possibly take advantage of quantum computing themselves. That said, outdated systems would certainly be vulnerable. There's also the question who had access to super advanced quantum computers. The first such machines wouldn't be available to the general public, for example.
Oh, you talking
all
about
things
quantum
considered,
apocalypse, I bet.
Yeah, all things considered, whilst quantum computers...
totally real, completely rock-hard fucking science quantum apocalypse.
Well, the quantum computers, much like fusion reactors, are just another 20 years away.
I thought it was more like a perpetual motion machine.
Renders data encryption obsolete. There's no guarantee that will lead to an apocalypse. Only time will tell. Oh, and there's one comment. What does the comment say? Is there anything interesting? Is it going to be revelatory? No.
Why are you leaving out the big? Why are you trying to cover up the fact that we don't know whether dogs are left or right-handed?
Well, here we go. This is J Penis 333, who's a
penis.
Yeah, so he's half of the devil and he's all a dork. He says people give these quantum computers entirely too much credit. They use extremely complex quantum algorithms to come up with best guesses that are not always accurate. Yeah, but even more important is the fact that quantum computers, they do not travel to your home and take you hostage. So to use the same device used in order to prevent websites and send your confirmation codes because you logged in using a different device from your IP. Not only this, the passwords and confirmation codes have a limit to how many times an attempt can be entered due to brute force protection. And they are also talking about a problem that exists approximately 20 years into the future, which fails to take into consideration newer security technology has not been implemented as of yet. Dickhead.
Hobbit, why are you trying to cover up this incredible study of whether dogs are left or right-handed?
Oh, shark science!
Dog science!
I fucking love shark science. I hope they spent £20 million and tortured many beagles to find out the answer.
They've actually done a wide array of tests. They might have actually spent some of the money.
Can I just say, because some of the worst Spurgs in the world are animal rights campaigners, no, I don't like it when beagles get tortured. They're one of my favourite ones.
Modern farming practices are horrific. The thing is, I can say that both modern farming practices are horrific, and I like eating bacon. The two things can mutually coexist.
Yeah. I mean, they're not exclusionary, are they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do they want all the pigs to die? Because there ain't going to be that many pigs. If the farm shuts tomorrow, every last one of those pigs is getting slaughtered. Every last one of those cows is getting slaughtered. Every last one of those sheep is getting slaughtered because they're no use to anybody.
And then they won't do it humanely. They'll do it as quickly as possible.
It'll be a la foot in mouth epidemic, won't it? And setting light to the fuckers, won't it?
Yeah. Just mass grave the bastards.
So, anyway, a wide array of tests have been developed in an effort to determine whether the domestic dog displays any evidence of preferred paw use. Tasks have included stabilising a toy, reaching for a food treat placed inside a container, or removing an object, such as blankets or piece of sticky tape from the animal's body. The other indicators putting a sticky tape on a dog, for fuck's sake.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, other indicators include recording the first step taken to walk downstairs or the paw given to a person upon request. Findings from these studies using these tasks differ to some degree, although a recent meta-analysis concluded that overall, dogs are more than likely to be paw preferent than ambilateral, what we call ambidextrous when talking about humans, or to display no favoured paw. But unlike in humans, paw preference appears to be roughly evenly split. Are they left or right-handed? No, they're both. Oh, for fuck's sake.
No, your mother.
Several studies point to strong sex differences in canine paw preference. Female dogs are more likely to be right-pawed, while males are more likely to be left-pawed. This sex difference has been unearthed in other non-human species, including the domestic cat.
So, have they tested that with humans, or?
Don't know. Well, of course they have. Oh, this is boring me now. Okay, this gets pretty weird. So why male and female animals should differ in their paw use is still unclear, although explanations include hormonal factors and differences in brain anatomy. They're also saying that it's like a left hemisphere, right hemisphere thing going on with dogs as well. They've also found evidence of a link between canine paw preference and personality, with ambilateral dogs scoring higher for traits of aggression and fearfulness than animals with strong paw preferences. This may have implications for animal training. Indeed, there is some evidence that paw preference testing might be a useful predictor of which dogs go on to become successful guide dogs. So there is actually some use to this thing. So, assessing paw preferences may also serve to identify vulnerable individuals in stressful situations. For example, left-pawed dogs have been found to display greater signs of stress in rescue kennels than right-pawed animals. At this stage, so they're just saying causal. They're saying they don't know whether it's causal or something else. Causal or what's the other one? I can't remember how to describe it. Words are my brain's going. Stephen J. James says, "Me too. I'm an animal rights eco keto meat eater."
I think Steve Irwin said it best about biodiversity, and that's why he eats meat, or used to.
Yeah, because he said he didn't he? And then he grew up.
Well, he researched into it and he found that in order to feed him and his family just on plants, they'd have to end up like tearing up like rainforest and stuff. And if you got livestock around, you got far more animals and better biodiversity.
Yeah, also you get more calories from meat than you do from vegetables, don't you? You get more calorific value.
More than that, meat is tasty.
Yeah.
As Dennis Leary said, meat is murder and murder